Hey everyone, and I just watched Meta Runner episode 2. Well, I didn't just watch it, I watched it this morning, but I had a lot of stuff I had to do today, so I'm getting around to it now. But yeah, so, vlog number 2. What did I think of episode 2? Well, first thoughts, I liked it. Again, I think it's a good episode. A lot of the same problems as last time, but a couple problems fixed. And I'll start with the plot. So yeah, so if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it now. But the plot was for this episode, episode 2, that it continued directly on from the last one, and it starts, most of it is Tari in the game. In fact, I felt that it was really front-loaded with Tari being in the game a lot. See, Tari's in the game, and she meets this character, Theo. And Theo is the character of the game that the girl was speedrunning in the last one. I have forgotten her name again, and I've also forgotten the name of the main scientist guy, main business guy. I think it was like Vox or something. Yeah, keep going. I'm doing a terrible job at recapping, so let's go. So yeah, she's in the game, and she meets Theo, the protagonist of this game. And I must say quickly, I love Theo. Theo is a great character, but we'll get back to that. And Theo is surprised to see her there. At first he thinks she's an enemy, but she convinces him otherwise. And they just kind of play the game for a bit. And it's really cool. So you see, they've devised this really cool world in the game. They fight these coconut trees as enemies. They put it in a quick snap about an E-rated game being, how there shouldn't be... Because Tari goes to punch one of the enemies and hurts her hand, and then Theo says, the advisory body or whatever frowns on there being violence in an E-rated game, so you need to use this comically oversized hammer to hit them. Quick note on that, Luke and Kevin... this is an Australian series of Australian voices and Australian characters. Unless I'm remembering incorrectly, I do believe you said it was an E-rated game. Games are rated G over here. We don't have the ESRB. Some of our covers do have ESRB printed on them. Some of them also have PEGI printed on them. Some of them have ELSPA rated on them. We actually have a big eclectic sort of cluster of all the different rating systems, but the one we use is the ACB-G, and I'm sure every viewer of my channel knows more than they need to about the ACB ratings. But going on from that, so yeah, they beat the final, the boss of the level, and then that scientist, we cut back to the scientist. I keep calling him the scientist guy. He's like the corporate guy, and I do need to learn the names of those two characters. But the mean girl from last time kicks all the people out of the store because she was told to, so the scientists and them can have privacy. I mean, if there were so many people in the store, how a bunch of them didn't notice that something weird was going on just over there? I don't know. But, yeah, she kicks them out of the store. And the corporate guy then gets the scientists to hook him in, sort of virtual reality style, into the game on the fly. And he talks to Tari, and he says, I want to help you through all this, yada yada yada. So trying to play an angle that, maybe he's a good guy, but that's immediately thrown out the window by the scientists. And in future, every time I say scientists, I'm going to do air quotes, because, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And then what's it called? And then they start hacking away at her Meta Runner arm. I don't know whether there's a specific name for them, appendage. I'm going to give them a name at some point if I don't hear one soon. But, and this causes Tari incredible pain. Causing her, even while she's in the game, she feels incredible pain in her arm. Because they're basically ripping at nerves, I imagine. And this brings her out of the game, back into her body, with basically Avatar state. If you've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, her eyes go blue, all the little tech sort of PCB traces in light blue that are the universal identifier of technology, like appearing all over her skin. And yeah, big energy wave, everyone's knocked to the floor. End of episode. So, what did I think of this one? Well, as I said, it's a big improvement. Theo, love Theo, absolutely love Theo. I think his character is written brilliantly as sort of slightly naive protagonist of a video game. Also self-aware protagonist of a video game. I think that was very well done. However, a lot of my problems with the characters from the last episode still exist. That girl character who I think is kind of Kaiba, if we were to apply a Yu-Gi-Oh metaphor, but not really because she doesn't have the money and or the power. So I'm not saying they ripped it off, because they didn't. They absolutely didn't. It's a very different power dynamic. But yeah, once I learn her name, it will be a lot easier. But yeah, her character needs to be reined in. I mean, she is just over the top. I know, like, the store has robo stuff, but she's just kicking those guys out. Like, hey guys, go! And like, I'm just like, okay, this doesn't make sense on a number of levels. One, why are you staffing this store? You're not staff of the store. There's robotic staff. The robotic staff would have been completely capable, I assume, of and you know, why would you have robot staff if they weren't capable of, you know, closing the store early? You are talent, so why are you doing this? Why is there not some sort of friggin', you know, minimum wage clerk to kick him out? Okay, yeah. Also, in this society, why do people even go to physical stores? All these guys should be on Netflix. Not Netflix, Amazon. They should be getting, well, not Amazon because it's Australia, but, you know, they should be getting stuff drone delivered in this society. That seems a bit weird now that I think about it, but that's not too much of an issue. And as I said before, why didn't they notice the thing that's going on just over there if they're kicking them out for privacy? Definitely they should have been curious as to what this weird gaming thing was happening with all these scientists running around. And that going on to scientists. These guys are not scientists. These guys are engineers. Okay? Kevin, Luke, I mean, it's so obvious they're playing the, like, these guys aren't being analytical with what they're doing. They're following orders. They're engineers, not scientists. Like, and I think, and that might be one of the, like, just to just get a bit deeper into what I said earlier about Theo. Theo is a very childish character, unless he's written very well. I think a lot of childishness is seeping its way into the other characters. And, yeah, I think we're in danger. I think the show's in danger of having a lot of its characters being very one note. And very, I think the perfect word for it is, unfortunately, and it pains me to say this, but childishly written. Written as if by a child. And I realize that might sound very offensive, and believe me, I have nothing but the utmost respect to the writing abilities of Luke and Kevin in SMG4 and that. I believe that is, for its genre, very intelligently written, but this, I don't know, it seems like they've just gone with some very, very basic archetypes, and the performers have just laser focused on them because there's not much else to do. But yeah. So, one thing I did really like is that it ended on a cliffhanger. I wasn't expecting that as much, because this is a 10-episode series. It will be a 10-episode series. And, you know, I was expecting with 15-minute episodes for this to be essentially a 2-parter. It's not. It's looking at it's going to be at least a 3-parter, perhaps a 4-parter. Or, what will be very impressive, if they pull this one off, I don't know whether it will be to the series' ultimate benefit or detriment, but since it's probably going to have a series 2, I'm going to say benefit. It will be very impressive if they pull it off into a single continuous serial, 10-parter. That will be particularly impressive, but some of the marketing material we've seen so far, like Tari's Let's Play that we saw, I think, a couple months back, that suggests to me that it won't be a complete part of that. It's probably gonna be more episodic, but we will see. Boss main character, I thought was a little bit better off this episode, but it is a bit unfair of me to judge this episode, like to say, oh, he's better in this episode than the last one, because again, this really did feel like, you know, a next part to the last one and part of a continuing story. Like, I feel the flow would have benefited a lot if the previous two parts was just an opening half-hour special, as opposed to two 15-minute episodes, and they should be viewed that way. I mentioned before, a little bit earlier, it was very much front-loaded with that gameplay stuff. Like, it just kept on going. And I was starting to think, wait, so are they just going to do all gaming stuff and maybe like a flash at the end? Because it really was starting to feel like it was dragging on. That said, I did kind of like being in the world. Maybe in there a bit too long before we realized it was a very samey looking world. But still bright, still colorful. I do like... there was something very specific I wanted to say, but I was a little bit disappointed when I saw that like the palm trees dropped bombs, and I thought, because like, you know, Tari, she goes and punches it, and then she hurts her hand, she runs back, and a bomb drops out of the tree. I'm thinking, so it's one of those levels where you've got to catch the bombs and throw them back at the boss, you know, a classic video game trope since the 5th generation. But no, it's just hit it with a big hammer. I was like, that's... Because a scene like that would have shown off Tari's ingenuity and problem solving, like, and how she gets good at games. Another interesting thing with Tari in this episode is that as she was completing the video game levels, she had a kind of HUD fade in and out of her vision, which showed her various solutions to games, which I'm assuming is going to come into play more later in terms of how she learns. Sort of like a visual representation of her perspective on games and working stuff out. I did have a couple more little niggles about the game design, but I don't think they're particularly important. But in terms of where the story's going, very interested in Tari and what exactly they're doing with her. So she's some sort of cyborg experiment thing. Yeah, I think it's pretty weird, hardcore, and full on for this villain guy to go straight to trying to rip off her arm. That was a little unsettling, but that said, it's got things moving very fast. It's got everybody knows with each character what it's about. There's none of that stuff around where it's like, oh, this guy might be good, but actually it's not. No. It's just pretty plain from the get-go. Who's good, who's bad. So yeah, ultimately, we're gonna have to see where this one goes, and I'm gonna keep on watching it. So tell me, if anybody is even bothering to watch these vlogs, what did you think of Meta Runner Episode 2? Ooh, my lights have gone out. Will they come back on? Yes, they will. What do you think of Meta Runner Episode 2? Do you think, it's going to go alright? You know, I do have some trepidations about the series going forward, but I'm sure in some ways I'll enjoy myself. In fact, I'm going to have to, because what I have planned for Keith Shizuo, or as you may have mentioned, I have a new name for the channel, To The Games. Don't know if it'll stick around for long, we'll see. But I do have ideas which overlap with some of the stuff that they're doing, but in a less direct way. So I'm going to have to be careful where I tread in the future, and make sure not to be influenced too much by Meta Runner. But yeah, so that's my thoughts, and I'll see you guys again next week for episode 3. Bye!